Good afternoon, everybody. We're here today again, and today we are talking about math. I have a phenomenal guest. I'm going to go ahead and bring him in. Welcome, Josh, to our Facebook Live today, talking about math.
Perfect. Good. Thank you.
So I just told everybody today we are talking about math. We've tackled literacy. We've tackled, fitness, just some overall homeschooling techniques and things like that. But to be, quite honest, math is my least favorite subject. Like I am the parent that's like, and I joked about this with you. I'm like, I'll take science, I'll take social studies, I will take anything. You go to dad. If it's math related, you go to dad. Anything else, you can come to mom. So when Empower said, hey, you really need to interview Josh Martin, he is our math guy. Like, he's going to make math fun and is witty. And also, I believe you have 5 kids at home as well. Is that correct?
I do. 5 kids ranging from elementary to college.
Yeah. So you're fun. In the thick of it. Yeah. You are with me in this homeschooling environment, which is, it's challenging. It
is. It is very challenging. In fact, even just this morning with my 6-year-old and math, which, boy knows daddy's a math teacher. It was a big struggle. It took me I had to finally say, I'm going to call your mom. And finally he came out.
Well, I'm really glad that you said that. It actually makes me feel better because to be quite frank, I feel like I can handle the elementary stuff, right? So my kids in elementary school, I'm totally fine. When we get into 6th grade, it gets a little iffy with me because I'm like, I don't remember how to do that. Today we were doing area and parameter and I was totally in the zone. I could handle that. But sometimes I feel like I'm not at my best. So that's one of the things that I wanted to talk with you, first about is for someone like myself who doesn't love math, it doesn't excite me. Like even in school, it brings back, the nightmares of math. How should we be approaching this with our kids so that I don't rub off on this? Mom doesn't like math. Math's not fun. That's not the message I want to share, but those are my fears. Those are the fears and those are the feelings that I have.
Right. That has been, as a math teacher, we've struggled with that same thing, that we've got parents who will tell their kids, oh, I'm not good at math. I was never good at math. I can't help you with that. The thing that you've got to recognize is that you don't need to know how to do the math. You just need to know how to ask questions to get your kids to know how to get there. So for me, I've got my oldest is my son, and he was a math guy and went much further math than I ever dreamed of. And I remember one time him getting stuck and just being, okay, explain how to do this piece. And then how do you do this piece? And I didn't know what I was talking about, but when he got to explaining it, then he found it. Oh, that's right. I remember how to do this now. So we just want to ask good questions, have them explain to us. And that's going to help us when we can't help to be able to help, and also to put a little interest in what they're doing too.
Okay, so first tool that you would tell us to pull out of our tool belt is to ask questions. I think Sue talked about that. She says they probably already know how to do this. You just have to jog their memory and
remind them.
Okay. Yep. Okay, so we don't always have to know how to do it. But let's say that they truly don't remember and we don't know how to do it. Like, what's our go-to resources? What can we do as a parent?
There's 2 things to do. You can simplify the question. So if it looks too big, just let's start exchange. Okay, what if we did it with this? Or bring out tools, manipulatives. So it might be dice. It might be just coins or counters. It could even be pinto beans, anything that they can use. And so they can now start determinative that way. The other thing is just Google it. It's amazing. With my age, I didn't grow up with the internet and Google. So for me, I don't always think about Googling it. Whereas my kids are like, I'll just Google it. And then they, find the answer.
Yeah. My 18-year-old, she uses Math Away. I think it's called Math Away. She uses Math Away. She's pretty creative. So, okay. So in terms of teaching math at home, how do we manage emotions? Because I feel like emotions run high with math because and this is my experience. Okay. Josh, when I was a kid, I was the kid that my dad or my teacher had to tell me the same thing for math. Oh, I just didn't have great number sense. And so I remember just thinking, for everybody else, it seemed so easy. For me, it just wasn't that easy. And it seems like emotions can run pretty high with math. Do you have any strategies for us to like keep it fun and, manageable?
Yes. Gamify it. Anytime you can make it into a game, into a competition, into a speed thing, just to bring out an extra piece to it that makes it exciting, that's always nice. You hit on something that's really important, the idea of not having the number sense you think you should have. That is because oftentimes when we were taught in kindergarten, we used little teddy bears and we lined them up and counted, and then we moved into little blocks, and then we left them for the rest of our school careers. But those are still super important to bring up that number sense, and not just what we call the standard algorithm, which is the 5 times 8 equals 40. But now let's show why is 5 times 8 40. And when the kids understand the number sense, then it's easier to get them going. I also want to just, at this time when we are homeschooling like crazy, I've learned 2 things from this. One is that it's easier to have a class of 30 sitting in a desk facing, one direction or whatever, and they're all within their little confined space. But now you put them into your home where the whole home is their space. It's hard to get them to sit down, stay still. So what you need to do is create your own little classroom. You need to have a routine that parents can stick to on a daily basis with times. We're going to, from 10 to 10:30, we're going to be working on this, 10:30 to 11, we're working on that. We're going to take a break with recess of whatever that looks like. A brain break is what we like to call them. But if you can create, just go with the basics, go with an idea of having a time and a place for everything, that's going to help with the consistency that your kids are used to in school. They knew what the schedule was in school. Now they need to know it at home. And if you can stay on a schedule, that's going to help reduce that stress for the kids.
Well, it's funny because we hit on this with one of our last interviews. I took for granted when you walk into an elementary classroom, especially, what's on the board, right? There's this visual, the visual schedule. Like the kids know, like you said, they know it's reading. They know we're going to go to specials. We know, all of these different things. And I was actually speaking with one of my clients yesterday. She said, Christy, I'm the kind of person that I walk through the office door and I know it's time to work. Our kids are the same way. They walk through the classroom door and it's almost like they know what to expect. Now they're at home and the expectations are a little bit different. And so so let me see. You said having a defined space, right, where we're going to work on having a visual schedule and a routine.
And that visual schedule can be easily just created on the computer, or take a dry erase marker and put it in the bathroom mirror. Put on a window next to where they're going to work, someplace where they can see, this is my expectations, this is what time we're going to get to work, and also what time we're going to end. And remember, as parents, we're not quite as good of a teacher as the teachers are. They've got this whole toolkit, they've had training, all kinds of things, so you're going to do your best as a parent, which is great. But even myself, I think I'm a better teacher than I am a home parent. There's just something different about having your own kid there. So we're going to reduce the amount of work they need to do. They don't need to be spending 7 hours at school at home. We can get it done much quicker than that. And we just need to keep the basics going with the kids.
Yeah, I agree, right? Like Sue mentioned on a previous interview, keeping their brains engaged, right? Like just keeping it going. So in terms of the schedule, I know in our school district, we are getting packets home and we're, so some of my kids are electronic, some of my kids are paper packets. And, how much time should we allot daily for math? Like what should that look like in a homeschool setting?
It probably varies a little bit based on age of kid. Okay. But if we just got our kids working for 30 minutes a day on math, that's pretty good. I mean, they're really in their classrooms getting 60 minutes to an hour and a half. So it's not much different than what we're getting. But we don't need to jam this all down them. They are going to have new concepts coming at them, especially if they're using packets. There's probably something new, and so it's going to take a little time to process. And like my own children are frustrated by not knowing something and never having been taught it. Now we're self-learning. They're not ready for that. That's hard for them. So we just have to think about just do 30 minutes at a time. And if you feel like you need to do 2 sets of 30, do that with like a morning and an afternoon or something, like just spread it out so it doesn't feel as long.
Have you guys shed any tears yet? Because we've had some tears in our house.
Starting with day one, as soon as we called spring break over in our home, that was where the tears started. Yep.
So I mean, I don't want at the end of, COVID-19 and everything that's forced us into this position, right? Because to be perfectly honest, I love my kids' teachers. I love them even more now. Yeah. This isn't something I would have signed up for because, I don't feel like it's in my natural wheelhouse. What should I be looking for in my kids, in terms of like frustration levels and things like that? Are there any cues? I mean, we know our kids pretty well, but what I want to know is, Josh, when should I push them and when should it just be enough, right? Because sometimes I feel like you're not even trying. I know this. You're just not even doing it. So what should I be looking for?
That's tough. I know in the classroom, I'll tell you what I would do in the classroom and then try to equate it to the home. So when a student doesn't want to perform in my classroom, then I'm going to just kind of give them a couple gentle reminders. Let's get busy. I'll tap a little bit on the desk, just a little sound, a little vibration, and just remind them, let's get started. When they can't get started, let's find out why. And the reason why might be they don't know how to do it. And they don't know the coping skill to say, I don't know how to do it. So let's figure out, okay, what's going on? Why are we not able to do this? And then bring them in. But we always want the student to do it. So if you're sitting at home during your scheduled time when math is coming up and they're not doing it, and they're supposed to be going from 10:30 to 11, then remind them, okay, at 11 we're done, and it's recess time or lunchtime. But if we have to push back, we will be ending not at 11 now. We're going to be ending at 11:15, and give them the understanding that their parameters and their 30 minutes is always going to occur. Where it occurs, it's better to occur on schedule as opposed to moving it. And sometimes the kids, that's all they need is just a reminder of, we're going to stay on schedule. We're going to end at this time. And then please give lots of praise as teachers. That's one of the things we hopefully are doing quite a bit of, is praising the kids for every little celebration we can think of. So one of the cool things that I did was we put a tent up in the backyard, and we do our math in the tent now. I don't know why. It just is different. And so it stopped the tears. And now we're back to the kitchen table. Okay. So I made a little modification, and then we moved back to the kitchen table, and now we're doing better.
Okay, so it can look a little bit different. Would you call that flexible seating? I think Sue or one of the other consultants talked about flexible seating. So give them the reminders, but then you're also saying don't be afraid to change it up. Like just figure out a different strategy to try to get this to work.
And then move it back to where you want it to be. So you start out with this different strategy that allows it to move back to our desired outcome.
Okay. And then go heavy on the praise, right? Like celebrations.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anytime you can bring out the Cocoa Puffs, it's better.
So let's talk about some of the tools of home learning. Just so you guys give you a little context, right before we jumped onto the live, I was mentioning to Josh that I don't have a 10-sided die. So I looked at one of the projects that, was, and it says use a 10-sided die. And I was like, oh, I can't do this. I don't have a 10-sided die. And he naturally just came up and said, oh, we'll just use playing cards. So talk to us about manipulatives that we can use at home that are going to help us with some of these concepts.
Playing cards are huge. A lot of our games that teach the number sense and the values are with playing cards. So I'll show you. This is the set I have. And you'll see that I've got the set turned backwards. That's because it's my face cards. So when I'm not using the face cards, I face them this way, put them off to the side. And now I've got numbers 1 through 10. And you do have to remind your kids that the ace is a 1, but you've got 1 through 10 happening here. These can be used for anything. If you flip over 2 at a time, and what's the sum? What's the difference? What's the product? All these pieces. And trying to use the good math terminology is important. What's cool about playing cards too is that you can go with for older kids, positive and negatives. So our positive numbers are black, like our checkbooks, hopefully, and our reds are like our checkbooks after COVID-19, negative.
Yikes.
I know. So now our older kids are now multiplying 4 times -1, or 4 plus -1, or 4 minus -1. And you can use these cards just like that. I mean, it's not much of a dice. And so what's nice about it is there's only 6 numbers. So it keeps it in an easier realm with the numbers. And that's kind of nice. So you can do the same things with dice. If you have 2 different colored dice, one's a positive, one's a negative, one's the 10s, one's the 1s, in place value. There's lots of opportunities for that.
Okay. Can you share with us a game that would be good for, say, just basic math facts, either using your cards or your dice?
Yep, I can. Let me show you this one. Let's see if we can get it.
Here, let me change our view. I can move us. There we go. That gives you a little bit bigger.
Perfect. So in concentration, this one is one that surprised me. I played this with my 6-year-old and my 21-year-old. And my 21-year-old and I were struggling with this a little bit. Concentration seems so easy. So we see this grid that's 4x4, 16 total cards. But what we're doing is we're finding numbers that add up to 10. So in this example, you can see we've got a 7 and a 3 make 10. Well, when I pick up the 7, I'm looking for a 3. I can talk to my 6-year-old and say, okay, you got a 7. What number do you want? He says a 3, and he starts looking for it. What made this hard is when these two are now 10 and you take them off, put down 2 new cards, and your concentration map just changed. So you can't really memorize the numbers very well because the boards always change, and that's what made it fun for the older kids. This one you can also do with multiples of, so you can do anything that gets you to a multiple of 12. So you can always take a game and change it up a little bit. Another fun one for dice that's really good for the young ones is double plus 1. And this, all it is you roll the die, they double the number and add 1 to it. You roll a 4, 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. Now they're doing 2 digits, or 2 steps, They're adding, they're multiplying without knowing it. And doubles is a super important number sense skill to get them up towards doing the multiplication, of course. But as we are doing mental math, doubles is often used in mental math. So these are kind of 2 of the games that I enjoy.
Yeah, that's super helpful. So just so you guys know, to give you a little bit of reference, we actually posted on our Facebook page yesterday and our Instagram page, we are going to be giving away 2 of these kits. So he was using 2 of the, what are, like, I guess 1 a days is basically what they are, like a little lesson plan from here. Show us what's in the box, Josh.
So that's cool. It has 45 different math games. Each game can be kind of used for multiple reasons. It also comes with this bag of manipulatives, from dominoes. There's shoestring for doing geometry. There's counters, whiteboard markers. You also get a couple whiteboards in here that can be used for doing some of the math. So one of the nice things is you can do math mentally, but then it's also nice to start writing it down. So you change from mental to fluency. And then we also have a full book in here of strategies, and it gives you a little information about math strategies themselves, kind of the nerd part of math. But then it also gives you all the different games and how to play them and why we play them, what kind of skills and strategies the students are learning. So it's if you're looking to change up math and get away from worksheets and get away from those 100 math fact sheets that are so boring, then something like this, they're doing their math facts with a game. And it's just, the kids appreciate it so much more.
So let's hit on that real quick. You talked about the drilling, right? That 100, math facts, the drilling versus playing a game. What does that do for our kids?
Well, I don't know how many of you like the drilling at the dentist's office, but for the kids, it's the same thing. We don't want to drill them. And it doesn't really get them understanding the concepts. So when they're looking at a full paper of 100 problems, it's just memorization. we need to get them to understand why 3 and 4 make 7 or 3 times 4 is 12. If we don't play these games and play with the numbers, they don't get the chance to understand that number sense that you said you lacked when you were younger, and thus now you feel like you're not good at math. If you started playing some of these games, it'd be just like being a soccer coach. You start learning these fundamental skills, and all of a sudden you're a better soccer player because you were coaching other people how to do it with the fundamentals. Same thing here.
Yeah.
I would even think adults could use these to improve their math skills. And the math skills we're working on.
Oh, you cut out. Say that last part again. You're saying adults could use these math skills?
This might be the problem of having too many kids on Wi-Fi trying to do all their homework. But the last part, just saying that, I don't even know what I was saying, to be honest with you. I was more thinking about how great of a joke that was going to be.
Then your Wi-Fi messed up your joke.
Right. There it goes. Timing's everything, and that one got messed up.
Okay, so to wrap us up, one, I just want you guys to remind you guys, we are, Empower has donated 10 of these Spark kits to the Big Helper team. We're going to be giving away 2 on Friday. And what we're asking you guys to do is to take a picture and post what your homeschool station looks like. So if you're doing math in a tent, we want to see it. We want to share the joy and the struggles. We want to, I mean, you guys know I keep it very real. And I want to see what you guys are doing at home. And then on Friday, we're going to pick 2 people that submitted their homeschool, you know, what they're doing at homeschool, what it looks like. And we're going to give away 2 of these kits. Everything you need in here in terms of manipulatives to just make math fun and hopefully create some good memories of homeschool at home. I think that's one of my fears is that I just don't want them to have bad memories of me being their teacher because I just worry about that. So as we wrap up, Josh, what's the 1 or 2 pieces of advice you could give a parent that is struggling right now with everything that's going on?
We hit a couple of pieces. So let's reduce stress with the kids. We don't want this to be a stressful time. It already is. And even though you might not think your kids are paying attention to what's going on around them, they see and feel it from you. So as we're worried about our jobs, our health, they are too, whether they know it or not. So reducing stress is super important. Create a schedule, make it just basic so that they know. If you get them to help you build a schedule, it's going to help so much more. So work together building a schedule. And then it's the questioning. Ask why. Ask them, why did you do it this way? Why did you think of this? Can you explain your thinking? Those pieces are going to get them to now verbalize what they're saying, which then gets it to sink a little more into the brain and they'll remember it better.
I love that. And actually, Sue just posted on here. She said, why do we use games for math facts rather than just flashcards?
Sue would say that. I spent 20 years teaching in schools where we taught math facts repeatedly, and my kids got so good at math facts. And then when they go to the board to do a problem, they didn't know it. And I'm like, we just did this. We just did a multiplication thing. How do you not know how to reduce that fraction? Well, it's because they didn't understand it. We have to play the games to get them to understand how numbers work together and to play with the numbers. But we also use the games because sometimes I can get a kid to do more problems of double-digit multiplication in a game than I can on a worksheet. And the kids are going to actually like the game as opposed to doing this black and white, blasé, kill me, gag me with a spoon worksheet.
I like that reference. You know what? I think that I understand what you're saying because when I volunteer in the classroom, and it's that transition time, the teacher always has these little stations, whether it's a battleship, spelling, vocabulary, like they're games. And if we want our kids to be more engaged, just like you and I, what would we rather do? Sit down with a piece of paper or pull out some dice and play a game that's going to, be creative and you hit on, competition. I'm very competitive. So I like that piece. I really do like that piece. Well, thank you so much, Josh, for, tuning in today with us and kind of just giving us some tips and tricks to make math fun at home. We're all in this together, and I know that there are some families out there that needed to hear your message. And also, I personally feel just a little bit better that the expert also struggled the first couple weeks of homeschool.
Yep, and still struggles. So it's not as easy as it looks. When we always wonder, could we homeschool our kids? And after this, there's no way our kids are getting the same kind of opportunities they do in school. So just do the best with what you've got, and we'll make it all work. In the long run, this will be a great time that you spend as a family. So love the math time, play games, have fun.
That sounds like a new goal or a new affirmation. I love family math time.
Exactly.
I am committed to loving family math time.
Yep.
You have inspired me today as the parent that always sends them to my husband. You have inspired me today to pull out some dice, to pull out some playing cards, and figure out a way to just make it fun, create some good memories. And at the end of the day, as you guys said, let's just keep their brains engaged, right?
Yeah.
Moving the brain forward. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. For everybody that's tuned in, remember, show us what you're doing at home. Send a video, post a picture, show us your homeschool environment, and let's give away. We have 10 of these that we're going to be giving away over the next couple weeks. Let's give away some amazing tools. Let's get them into the hands of the parents and students that need them. And for everybody else, just so you know that you can, let me make sure I've got this up, Empower EC. EmpowerEC.com. I'll get this up right now so that you guys can see what that looks like. So to find, if you want to know more about these Spark kits or the one-a-day math problems, you can go to EmpowerEC.com and learn all about there. Also, they have consultants there on chat. So if you run into a jam and you want to talk to an expert, the teachers are available via chat. And I know that I have phoned a friend a couple of times during the past couple of weeks. So unfortunately for Josh, I now have his cell phone number, and I might.
Any math questions you got, let me know.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for tuning in, and best of luck out there, guys.
Thank you. Bye, guys.